This guy looks like NF, can't wait for the album. I guess that's not really mean. Oh, actually, is NF really pretty? This is appealing to children, I guess. Look at the guy speaking in this video. All hipster charade injected with funding to drive people to their particular denomination. Check out the guy behind him on his computer with all his plastic voodoo dolls. This is sick. It's sick. False idols and not one scripture mentioned. He even calls children, quote unquote, kids, which is demeaning. Little goats. Well, hey there, my name's Brady Shearer. This is Pro Church Tools, and today, let's talk about criticism and how to handle it. Do not treat all criticism equally. If you and I want to wisely handle criticism, this is the best place to start, because anytime you're in a position of leadership, anytime you're creating something, you're gonna make decisions, you're gonna say things, you're gonna do things that people disagree with. But not every critique deserves your reflection or time. Let's use a real example. This is a comment I got recently on YouTube from a person named Dave Stewart, and it says, "Can't stop laughing. 2 soy boys still pooping green. 0 life experience. Telling us how much they know about real church. Hilarious." So this comment is a bit on the extreme side, but I get feedback like this pretty much every week. And that's because I have hundreds of videos that are public on YouTube. And one of the unique things about YouTube compared to other social platforms is that it is a search engine. So that means every day people are stumbling onto my content that are largely unfamiliar with me as a person. Maybe that's you right now. And if you're a church leader, there are similarities here, right? Because you're in a public position. And this is why it's so important to separate your work from your worth. Don't conflate the work you're doing or the art that you're creating with your identity. And you'll know that you've reached this point when you can hear feedback like this kind of stuff from Dave about yourself and not feel any flutter in your stomach, not feel your heart starting to beat a little faster. And I've gotten to the point with most comments like this where I'll calmly just remove them. So now, what about criticism from someone you know, or critical feedback that's well articulated and reasonable? Well, for me, my highest aim here is to be unoffendable and coachable. One of my favorite proverbs reads, "Wounds from a friend can be trusted." And with my close friendships, there's nothing that's off the table when it comes to critiquing my decisions, actions, words, behavior. In fact, I welcome that criticism because, look, I've got blind spots, a lot of them, in fact, and I rely on my friends to point them out to me, because if they don't, I'll likely never realize them on my own, which is very sobering to think about, and actually one of the things that I concern myself with most. And so it's in these relationships where I'm actively seeking out critical feedback. I'll even request it, because faithful are the wounds of a friend. And then there are the in-between criticisms. These don't come from internet trolls, but they also don't come from close friends. This is more like criticism from a peer or an acquaintance. And to me, this is sometimes the best type of criticism to receive because it can serve as a valuable gift, if I can let it. As an example, I had a comment exchange with a peer of mine a couple of weeks ago in which he said I was misrepresenting him and I was being dishonest. And I took that really seriously because even though I disagreed with his reasoning and how he arrived at his conclusions, his experience still matters to me because it was my actions and my words that were making him feel this way. And Paul says in Romans, "Do all that you can to live in peace with everyone." And it's that first part of the stanza that I'm always trying to be mindful of. Do all that you can. A different translation has it saying, "as far as it depends on you." It's about taking personal responsibility for whatever role you play in interactions like these, and then asking yourself, how can I be better? And this is why striving to be unoffendable is so important to me, because if my ego gets in the way, you know, the part of me that loves to get offended, then I won't be able to look inward and honestly assess my shortcomings. I'll just make excuses. I'll blame external forces. I'll rally my friends together to talk about how I'm right and they're wrong. Okay, let's close out with some rapid fire. When it comes to how I moderate comments online, I'm usually pretty aggressive with the delete button. If your comment is rude, vulgar, nonsensical, or just unrelated to the discussion at hand, you're probably gonna get deleted. With that being said, I welcome disagreements that are fair and on topic, and I do my very best to respond to comments like this and not ignore them. One thing I do look for is your name and profile picture. If you're not gonna use your real name or real face, I generally won't take your feedback as seriously. And then finally, there's an element to all of this that is unique to the church world. And I don't know if it's just me here, so let me know if you see this as well. Leave your thoughts in the comments. But when I first started creating content for churches 7 years ago, it felt like the cadence of most conversations I observed online was superficially civil. Like, most people weren't willing to hold a clear position on a topic, and there was a lot of tiptoeing around each other. And I'm not even talking about theology here, just like digital media, church communications. And I haven't always been able to articulate this as well as I'd like, but it's always been a value of mine. And I came across a tweet from DHH of Basecamp a little while back, and I think he says it perfectly. He says, unless you follow up your "it depends" or "it's all about trade-offs" with an actual disposition of what it depends on or how to weigh those trade-offs, you're saying less than nothing. It's an intellectual pause button. And this is why I always err on the side of taking a stand. A clear position is a place where we can explore the argument. Falling back on quote unquote "it depends" or "it's all about trade-offs," it's a way to shut it down. It's what you say when you don't want to risk saying anything at all. Since the beginning of Pro Church Tools, I have resolved to hold clear positions on the topics that I'm educated on. And in these arenas, rarely will my position be, "it depends," because I don't think it's helpful for churches. It leads to inaction. Maybe you've heard the saying, perfect is the enemy of progress. But there is an element of risk when you hold a clear position, right? You could be wrong, you could be misinformed, you could be mistaken. And because of this, a clear position welcomes increased levels of criticism, and you need to be okay with that. Now, there is one type of comment that we weren't able to track down for this video, and it's come in more than once, and it has to do with my eyebrows. Now, I've asked my wife. She says the commenters aren't wrong. People are like, "Whoa, when did you shave your eyebrows?" And then a lot of derogatory comments after that. But the bulk of the comment was, "Why do you shave your eyebrows?" You can see how different the color is between the eyebrow and the hair. Like, it's not the same. So, leave it in the comments. Hit the church bell, turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Alex, should I get my eyebrows tinted?
It's a hard pass for me.
Alex says no. Yeah, of course. His eyebrows will be creeped out. What do you think, Tristan?
I think you should get them tattooed on.
Tattooed? Okay, little left field. And Joe, your thoughts?
I got a wicked ballpoint pen in my desk. I could just fill those suckers in.
Wow, okay, so no consensus. 4 different options to consider.